He's in the main event of this weekend's UFC Fight Night card, taking on Rafael dos Anjos, an absolute legend of the sport. What does it mean to you to face your fellow countryman in Rafael?
Man, it's a great fight for me. I think that especially at this moment, I get to come back against a former champion, a legend like Rafael. And for me, it's pretty special because I looked up to him for a long time in my career. I've watched him before I even was fighting the UFC. I already watched Rafael fighting. So yeah, it's definitely kind of those childhood dreams. You go and fight the guy that you used to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you look at his resume, and he's fought just an absolute who's who of fighters in the UFC. So, what would a win over Rafael mean to you? I mean, to beat somebody that I'm sure you looked up to coming up in the sport.
Yeah, I think that beating a guy like Rafael, he's just gonna set me up, for a great comeback and put me in a great position. Especially considering the division how it is. We have a new champion. We don't know who he's gonna fight. If it's really gonna be Kobe or if it's gonna be Bilal, and that's the perfect moment for me to get a big win against a guy like Rafael that has so much, relevance in the UFC. He's such a legend.
Absolutely. Now, a little bit of a scare with you, it seems, after your last fight. You had to get a lot of different medical intervention to make sure you were cleared for this fight. So, tell me about what happened.
Yeah, so I had, a little bit of an issue after the fight with Jeff. Uh, like routine, we always go to the hospital and they identified that I had like a little kind of like a brain bleed, but it wasn't something, serious, too bad. It's not common. Obviously, it's not common, but they had to keep an eye on it. When they kept an eye on it and they saw that it was recovering, it was getting better, I had no problem. I went back home. All the recovery process was excellent. I really had all the support from the UFC, from my manager Ali, and everybody, was had my back. The only issue we had was getting cleared. So I first initially I had a 6 month suspension, and I went through that perfectly. Then after that, we found out that actually was a year in Nevada. So I had to get some other clearance from other doctors when I was gonna have this fight. That's why first it was scheduled to July, then moved to August, just so that I cleared that 1 year suspension. And I went to a lot of specialists, and they all did a lot of exams. There's a great technology now, right, that can show so much more details about the brain, and they all cleared me and they said, "Hey, you're not only fully recovered, but your brain is just like a regular person. You have no scars, you have nothing that would be a bad thing. A factor not to clear you."
So, what exactly happened? Like in terms of the brain injury itself, what were they able to determine from looking at, I guess, the CAT scans or whatever it was that showed them that something had happened?
I was hit really hard many times, and because of the impact, uh, kind of like little vessels got kind of ruptured. But it's pretty much like you could say it's like a bruise, but to the brain, and that's like much more serious than a bruise somewhere else. But it's kind of like that, little vessels that carry blood. They just broke because of excessive punching, and I was hit a lot on that fight against Jeff. I would say maybe that's when my chin came against me. I can take so much damage, but there I was punched too hard, and I just don't fall. I keep on fighting.
Well, sometimes you're your own worst enemy when it comes to fights. When they're offered to you, you seem to take them all the time. So having this year off and this kind of time to recover, and also to look back on the first time you've been finished in a mixed martial arts fight, have you had to change a lot of the way that you plan on fighting going forward, so that you don't have to, I guess, take one to give one, like your style has kind of been in the past?
Yeah, I definitely think that this was a big lesson for me, and like it was a lesson not only of how risky this is. I always knew the risk, but more of how I was fighting in a way that might not be the way I can be the best fighter that I can be. I think I wasn't developing all my skills, and I wasn't developing everything because yeah, for me it's easy. I get hit, and then I throw two or three harder shots, and I know I hit hard, and I know I can take damage. So that worked for me for a long time. But it made me kind of not develop footwork, head movement, and all these other skills that I am capable of developing, but I just left aside. And now that's what I've been working on, just making sure that I have all these new skills and I can use them in my favor as well.
Do you compare it a little bit to Justin Gaethje? I think he was probably around your age when he lost. I believe it was two in a row. Might have even been three in a row at that point in time, and he decided like the style that I fight has gotten me to a high level, but it's not going to get me over the hump. It's not going to get me above a certain ceiling. Is that something that you've recognized about your game, and is that a good comparison?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great comparison, and especially in the sense that these changes that have to be done are in no way something that is going to make my style more boring or kind of like more not less exciting. It's just going to make me more dangerous and even more exciting because it's exactly that. It's taking away the stupid risk, the unnecessary risk, but putting me in a better position to put on my shots. And man, when my hands land, I know the damage I caused, so I'm still gonna be putting that in, but being able to move out, get out of danger and make more exciting fights.
Where did you do the majority of your camp? Were you in Florida or Brazil, or did you split time between both?
Yeah, so now I have moved to Florida for good. I felt like that was a big step in my career as well. I felt that I needed to finally live here in Florida, live in Florida and be able to have a full year training with these guys, not only for fight camps, but training at Killcliff with all the guys. And yeah, so now the whole camp, and even before I had the fight scheduled, I was already training at Killcliff.
Now, I've got to ask you a question about two gentlemen that they train in the same state as you, but not in your gym. Now, you and Gilbert Burns are the closest of friends, and you've said you guys won't fight one another. Unless I think you said it maybe for the championship or something, but that we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But we saw in the PFL Hausch Manfio having to face Nathan Schultz, and these guys are like the godparents of each other's children. Did you watch this fight, and what were your thoughts on that? Because I know that because you and Gilbert fight in the same weight class, there's always that kind of question that arises of what happens if we end up having to face each other.
Yeah. I watched part of the fight. I didn't watch the full fight, but I think it's a really really hard situation. It's a perfect example of what me and Gilbert go through. Like we're really close. Our families are friends. My wife and his wife are friends. Eric, I'm very friends with his children, with his sons, and he now knows my son and plays with my son all the time. So it's hard when when it's such a relationship so close because fighting is different than other sports. We have the damage. We go in there and we gotta fight, and part of it is to try to break our opponent down. And sometimes knock them out, sometimes submit them, and that is something that there is damage involved, and you don't want to damage somebody that you're friends with their family. And you don't want his kids or my kids to see that happening to each other. So it's something really tough. It's really hard, and I would hate to be in that situation.
Well, it's kind of tricky at Team Killcliff as a whole because in the welterweight division, there are a lot of mouths to feed in your gym. You've got yourself,
Yeah.
Gilbert, Shavkat Rakhmonov, Ian Gary. The list goes on. So, how do you guys stay competitive with each other in the gym, knowing that one day, probably not Gilbert and yourself, but you may have to face one of your teammates?
Yeah, I think that little by little, Gilbert and Kamaru were the first one to really kind of show us how it would be. And even though it was really hard and emotionally it was hard for the whole team, it was like a hard situation. Now Kamaru's training there again with us, and him and Gilbert have a great relationship again, and I think that that's kind of like setting the example. So it can be done. It can definitely be done, and I think it's something that we're gonna start getting used to more and more. It's just natural.
Yeah, and what's it like being in that room just training as a whole? Not only great welterweights, but a ton of incredible middleweights in that gym as well. It seems like that's the strongest weight classes at Team Killcliff are like 170, 185. So many incredible fighters in that gym.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent over there, and I think that's what really makes the team, in my opinion, the best in the world. And I think I see that this is might be the future for MMA. for really big teams like this, because it's kind of like, I would compare it a little bit to a franchise in football or whatever. Like, you get there, you have all the highest level athletes, you have high level coaches, and not only fight coaches, but also strength and conditioning. You have all these sponsors that sponsor the team, but they also support the fighters. So especially the fighters that are not in big shows yet. So they'll send supplements, they'll send all these different things, to support these guys that are starting. I think really it's amazing, being an athlete, part of that, and for myself to be able to train with all these guys. It just makes my game much better, because I get all these different looks. I get guys that are tall, short, strong, fast. Some guys are strikers, other guys are wrestlers, others are grapplers. So I can train literally with all kinds of different games of MMA. And then as well, the middleweights too. They're beasts. A guy that I've been training a lot with and is a great friend now is Gregory Robocop. He's gonna fight 1 week after me in Boston, and he's one to keep an eye on. He's a beast.
Yeah, everybody that I talk to that trains at Killcliff always mentions him. I talked to Gerald Mearshart, Aaron Jeffrey. These guys love training with RoboCop. It seems like he's in the gym all the time.
Yeah, all the time, man. He's a beast. He trains nonstop, and really like that kind of guy that he trains hard, but he's really loyal and honest. He doesn't go there and try to break you and try to like hurt you. He's gonna give you the best work possible. It's gonna make it hard, but still we're gonna be safe. We're gonna be, healthy after it.
Well, Vicente, it's a pleasure catching up with you. Excited to see you fight on Saturday. More importantly, I'm happy you're in good health. You're somebody that I always enjoy my time, spending it with you, because you're just such a nice, genuine guy, and I'm happy to hear that you're able to resume your career and continue to chase your passion in a healthy fashion. So appreciate speaking with you, and best of luck on Saturday.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. I'm blessed to be able to do what I love once again, and Saturday is gonna be fun. We're gonna all have fun together. Let's go.